Juakuin Buckley, everybody knows this by now. I'm sure you've seen the clip. Impa Kasanganai catches his kick, holds it up high. So Buckley just jumps, pivots on that leg, jumps, spinning back kick, kicks him in the head, runs away. Impa freezes in the air like a cartoon character, like he was shot in the head about a video game, and falls.
That's the classic brutal head kick knockout where you just stand dumbfounded for a half second before stumbling over.
Now,
I've seen that happen a couple of times. It seems like a natural response. Is that just because you're really well balanced on your feet when you get knocked out and it takes a second for you to buckle?
We'll get to that in a second. I think it's more so just that you stiffen up, and because you stiffen up, you don't just crumple. You just kind of stiffen up, and then eventually gravity will take you to one side or the other.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say is that this is actually not that rare of a kick if you go to the Taekwondo world. Taekwondo people are yelling and shouting and screaming, "Oh my God, what are you guys freaking out about? We see this left, right, and center every day in the gym." Now the thing is, that's true, but Taekwondo is one of those martial arts that takes such a high level of skill, such a high level of it's not one of those martial arts that you can just kind of pick up at 20 years old, do a couple of years, and then just be amazing. The dexterity, the strange ways these guys kick and move their legs is just so high level that it is only going to start appearing now in MMA once the striking in MMA is really starting to get to that level where people are learning how to mix in those really high risk, high reward, and really just tough to pull off moves like that. Like those spinning back kick knockouts, like tornado kicks that we're going to start seeing more and more in the UFC once people's striking games start to really, really step it up even more.
Yeah, I mean, just phenomenal. You don't hear a lot of people talking about Taekwondo when you hear about MMA. You get a lot of that. You got your boxing, you got your Muay Thai, you got your Jiu-Jitsu, of course. Taekwondo and karate, the two forgotten martial arts. But every time I see somebody who is proficient in one of those sports, their striking looks so flawless. It's like watching a master painter just draw on the canvas. It's like the control of motion that they have, their dexterity, like you mentioned, Roey. God, it's always a treat to watch, and it's great to see that stuff actually get pulled off in the octagon, where you do have to, you can't just throw caution to the wind all the time and throw an extremely risky kick. You run some serious risks of getting, hit with a flying, just good old-fashioned American boxing fist and just getting knocked out. That's not the kind of thing you got to worry about as much in a Taekwondo tournament, where I guess you're going to see, more of these kicks. You're obviously going to see them when you don't have to worry as much about the other weapons that people have in MMA at their disposal. And
even more so, the other even bigger thing I think is that in Taekwondo, you don't need to worry as much about balance. You can throw these crazy spinning kicks, be way off balance, fall to the floor, and they say, "Cool, get up, start."
Yeah.
In MMA, if you're up, let's say you manage to stay on your feet, right? You do one of these crazy kicks, even if you hit it, maybe not, you don't knock the guy out, you don't hurt the guy, you just kind of hit him, and then you're a bit off balance. He just jumps on you, takes you down in a second, and now you're in his world. So it's one of those things that's a lot harder to pull off in MMA, and that's why we haven't seen it yet. But I think we're going to start to see it more and more. And the other thing I was thinking about is that, as you were saying, I mean, Taekwondo, karate, these are these older, more traditional forms of martial arts that that you don't see much in the UFC, but you're starting to see it come in a little bit in the guys that can do it. The guys like Wonder Boy Thompson with a creative karate style, or the in-out karate style of a Cejudo when he fought I think TJ or Robert Whitaker. Those have been really, really, really useful. But I think it's actually
despite his wrestling background, GSP, another great karate
there you go,
karate base on.
But there's actually some other martial arts that have snuck in there a little bit. I don't remember. I think it's Wing Chun, is it called? I believe.
Wing Chun?
Tony Ferguson. Yeah, Wing Chun.
Yeah.
Tony Ferguson has been working on a lot of Wing Chun dummies. It's a lot of just like elbow and hand control. It's really weird. It's strange looking, but you see Tony doing these really weird things, and he catches all these elbows in tight in the clinch because he has this Wing Chun skills that people think are not at all relevant in real life, and you can't actually pull it off in a real fight. But if you're really proficient, and even more so, you know how to mix it in with everything else.
Yeah, that's key.
Right? Because someone who's just a Wing Chun master but knows nothing else is going to get his ass beat every day.
Yes, I'm quite certain there are videos on YouTube of masters of these sports fighting like boxers.
But if you just take some skills from this martial art, right? You take some things from it, you can integrate it into MMA, then you're able to pull it off successfully, right? You're not going to see a boxer come into MMA and not change his style at all and do anything successfully. He's going to get taken down. He's going to get his leg chopped up from under him. You can't have a normal boxing stance in MMA. Same thing here. You can't just come in as a Wing Chun master. You need to know how to use some Wing Chun weapons in the right context, and also, of course, be just as good everywhere else.
Yeah, everything has to go through that filter of MMA. It has to be appropriately utilized within a different sport, because you are just having to worry about such a greater arsenal of weapons and such a wide breadth of just different skills that different fighters are bringing in.
You got to mix your martial arts.
I think one of the problems that there's been with, why you don't see, I think, a lot of karate, Taekwondo-based fighters, I think there's like a big misconception because, unfortunately, a lot of borderline con artists open up like karate dojos and like they take on like McDojos is the term. That's where you get like 6-year-olds who do like 4 years of karate, and then by the time they're 10, they're a black belt and they can break boards with their foot. I mean, that stuff is great for a kid's self-esteem, and I have no doubt that these things do, they are ultimately beneficial for your kid. They increase their confidence, their self-esteem. It gives them some form of exercise. But, if you put them next to, an actual karate dojo, it's, if you want them to have all those benefits and learn a useful skill, then you need to actually do some digging and find a real dojo, which are fewer and further between.
I agree to a certain extent. If you're going to talk about real skill in terms of an actual fight, fine, I agree.
Skill in a fight, I misspoke.
Yeah, right? There's everything else that you learn from
sports in general. If you want your kid to have a skill, take them, give them a hammer, teach them how to build something. No.
What I mean though is that you do learn a lot of skills from just being in martial arts, from being in sports, from being in that environment is very, very useful for a child. I just agree. Yeah, you're not going to have a guy who knows how to, because he goes into Taekwondo as a 7-year-old, can keep himself up as a street fighter. In fact, to that point, Noah, something that I don't think either of you boys know about me, I'm actually technically a 2nd degree black belt in Taekwondo. I did Taekwondo, just like you said, from the age of like 5 till about 11 or 12. I went 2 to 3 times a week. I worked my way up. I went white, yellow stripe, yellow belt, green stripe, green belt, blue stripe, blue belt. I don't remember everything, but I think it was from blue to purple to red to black. I think it was, something like that. Either way, point is, I ended up being a 2nd degree black belt by the end of it before I ended up leaving. And I can't do shit. I can throw a decent roundhouse kick, guys. I can almost guarantee I have a better roundhouse kick than Noah. Adam, you've been training a bit longer, maybe. You have a better roundhouse. So like, I've got a little bit here and there, but I mean, it didn't really do much for me.
I guess that's interesting. I mean, I hadn't really put much thought into like the whole McDojo concept, but I guess it makes sense because your kids can pick up a lot of like useful skills like discipline and have some confidence by learning martial arts, which is beneficial. But does it really hold up in like the pure MMA world? Like, likely not.
No, certainly not. Just because little Johnny can break a board with his foot, doesn't mean that he can be like the middleweight champion. Not by a long shot.
I could do it. I got my 2nd degree black belt. I'm not just any black belt. I'm a 2nd degree, boys.
Yeah, so we got to watch out for you.
Uriah Hall. I'm going to spinning back kick you. Actually, Buckley, bring it. I'm going to take on Buckley next week. Let's go. Joaquin.
So as a 2nd degree black belt, from that perspective, do you think that knockout was that impressive? Do you think it was really all that?
Joaquin, I am not impressed by your performance.
Classic.